Yo. Like I was saying, shout out to Entertainment. Shout out to RL early in the chat. Shout out to Stream Deck, still messing up my stuff. Crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. What's up, selectors? I think you got me now. You guys got me now? I think we're good. We're legit. Welcome to obviously behind the scenes. There we go. Welcome to our spoiler review of Creed 3. And I'm going to go ahead and say this. First of all, I ain't taking no slander. If you saw our other non-spoiler review, I'm not taking no slander on this one. It's 3/03/23, Creed 3. I ain't taking no slander. Creed 3 is the GOAT of sports movies. It is the greatest sports movie of all time. My sounds aren't working. I hope my clips are working. If not, we'll figure it out. But this is the greatest sports movie of all time. I'm going to tell you guys why in about 30 seconds. Make sure to like, subscribe. Hey, look, one of the buttons worked on the Stream Deck. Way to go. Love it. Like, share, subscribe. Link tr.ee/select screen. Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Apple, and Spotify podcasts. I'm going to break this down for you guys. Because RL's like, hold on now. You already see my grade. If you saw the spoiler or spoiler-free review, you already know. You already know. This is going to be so fun, man. I can't wait to talk to you guys about this. Shout out again to my man, Entertainment. Shout out to RL. Always running through here, man. Shout out to Visual. Shout out to Wrestling. All of my selectors who, I mean, every time we go live, you guys are right there. I have some big news after the other side of the intro as well. So let's get into this thing, man. I'm ready. You're ready. One step, one punch, one round at a time. I'm ready. You're ready. Let's go. Yeah, man. All right, let's jump right into this thing. I'll tell you what, man. When technical difficulties happen, you just roll with it. And hopefully you guys can hear me fine. Spotify acting a fool. Stream Deck acting a fool. It's installing a new Spotify, that's right. All right. So let's talk about why Creed 3 is the greatest sports movie of all time. But before we get to that, I want to talk about other great sports movies before we do that. Is that cool? Let's go ahead and start with the chat, man. We're going to do this review just a little bit different. I want you guys to put out what your favorite sports movie is. And let's talk about it first. And then I'm going to tell you why Creed 3 is the GOAT. DJ said, only GOAT movie is 42. Man, 42 was good. 42 was great. But 42 has now become 23. 42 is probably the LeBron James. Ooh, basketball, Space Jam, A New Legacy. Okay. The original Space Jam is up there, right? The original Space Jam is up there. He said, yes, let's talk about other sports films. I want to do this a little bit different. 42, awesome movie. Space Jam, the original Space Jam, I love. The new one, I didn't mind. I thought it was fine. I still prefer the original 90s one, but for what it was, I think it was definitely better than House Party. You see my dog in the background? Let's see. Other sports movies. You know what? Let me look it up. Coach Carter. Coach Carter's up there. I have not seen Hustle. Ford versus Ferrari. It's a sports movie. That's a good movie. That was a really good movie. King Richard, I have not watched yet. I wanted to watch that, and of course, all the stuff that went down. Moneyball, I skipped. Southpaw, I didn't get a chance to see. I wanted to see. The Fighter was pretty good. Talladega Nights, I guess, counts. I wouldn't say that's in the running. Like Mike is a good movie. It's a classic. Remember the Titans. Great one. Concussion was really good. The Wrestler was really good. Right? We've got some good movies here. You guys know your stuff. I mentioned Coach Carter. Friday Night Lights is great. $1 Million Baby's dope. Miracle's good. Mighty Ducks. Mighty Ducks was good. Rudy. Got to talk about Rudy. A League of Her Own. Not a bad movie. Field of Dreams. I know a lot of people think Field of Dreams. Would you guys put White Men Can't Jump? Any Given Sunday. He Got Game. Good movies. I've seen this too, The World's Fastest Indian. I don't think that's a really... Hoop Dreams, Blue Chips was for me. Varsity Blues was Invincible was Major League. The Legend of Bagger Vance. That's a golf movie. I screeched up. Looks like Will Smith is in it. I haven't heard of that. The Bad News Bears. You could say Waterboy. I'd give you Waterboy. Basketball is kind of a sports movie. I wouldn't say it's great. Happy Gilmore is technically a sports movie. Sandlot is technically a sports movie. The Replacements, I would put all those movies kind of in the same category. They're a little bit different. This to me is a coming of age story. This is a comedy. I wouldn't call them a sports movie. Happy Gilmore really is a comedy based around sport. Little Giants, coming of age story. You know what I mean? So I think we can all agree, and I haven't seen King Richard. What's up? My man Historical is in here. Hustle's is my favorite sports film. He Got Game, Any Given Sunday, King Richard, Friday Night Lights are all set. All of those are good movies. What was the boxing movie that had Blackjack in it? I love that movie. Blackjack. Jack Black or Blackjack? I'm not familiar with that one, man. But there's been some really great movies in here. I don't see like Hoosiers. I was gonna say Jerry Maguire is kind of a sports movie. The Longest Yard, the original and the remake. Again, those are loosely sports movies. Mighty Ducks. Air Buds. I would say the Air Buds are coming of age stories. Wouldn't say that's one of the best. What about Ali? Right? The Big Green. If RL, see, you know your movies, bro. The Big Green is one of the dopest movies. That's one of my favorite coming of age movies. I love that movie. And I'm not a huge soccer fan. I love that movie. That's a great movie. Man, Little Big League, 1994, DJ, very good. Entertainment. I want to know what that Jack Black movie is. Karate Kid? Are we going to count Karate Kid? Because if you count Karate Kid, it's an action sport. If you count Karate Kid, then you gotta count other movies. So I'm gonna say Karate Kid doesn't count. Between The Sandlot and The Big Green, I don't know which is a better coming of age story, man. Those are two. You could convince me either way. The Sixth Man with Marlon Wayans. The Sandlot is definitely a baseball movie, but what I mean by it's a coming of age story is that like it's really about what brought them all together. Just like Happy Gilmore, right? Happy Gilmore, it's about Happy and his life more than it is about him boxing or him playing golf. It's like golf is what is the it's what he does as a profession, right? Fighting with my family, I think is not that it's in the running for the greatest of all time, but I think that's a better example, right? Versus Happy Gilmore versus The Sandlot. Those are two different movies to me. More in this drama, sports drama kind of lane is where I'm getting at with best sports movie, right? You can have things like The Miracle and stuff like that. All of those movies, I want to say before we actually jump into this, those movies are really good movies, right? With the exception of the occasional goofy one, those are all pretty good movies. But guys, I'm not taking any slander on this. Creed 3 is the GOAT of sports movies, and here's why. Creed 1 had an impossible job. Flat out. And I said this in the spoiler-free review. It had to be a spin-off of one movie no one brought up. For the longest time, I think people really thought Rocky, the original, what was it, 1977? That movie was probably the greatest sports movie for a lot of people for a long, long time, right? It tells the story of a no-name kid underdog becoming the heavyweight champion of the world. Rocky 2 went a step further. It added more drama. And I feel like most people are split on Rocky 2 versus Rocky 1. Either you love Rocky 1 and you think Rocky 2 is okay, or vice versa. I'm one that I enjoyed it kind of as one whole movie. If you look at Creed 1 and Creed 2, Rocky 1 and Rocky 2, they're basically one movie, really. Those movies are, to the boxing genre specifically, everybody knows those movies. Everybody, right? When it comes to boxing, those are the movies. Now, you could say $1 Million Baby, Ali. Then we got into Rocky 3, Rocky 4, Rocky Balboa. Those got a little too goofy. We're fighting Mr. T. You know, we're doing weird stuff there. Creed, to me, seems to have done the same thing, but it had the impossible legacy to lead into. Michael B. Jordan, who is still a fresh face, had to be a believable successor to Apollo Creed, who was a beloved character in a beloved franchise. And Creed was successful, standing next to Sylvester Stallone, and he did it. Creed 2 splits a lot of people. It's more heavy on the family dynamic, what's going on behind the man. It really, for me, it complicates the story a lot, and I liked it. I actually like Creed 2 better than I like Creed 1. And again, people go back and forth on that. Creed 3 had another impossible task. Now, it has to make a Creed movie without Rocky. And let me tell you guys, this is Michael B. Jordan's first time sitting in the director's chair, and he nails it. He absolutely nails it. Entertainment says, so did Jonathan Majors had a name in Creed 3, or was it just his original name? What makes this movie the greatest sports movie of all time, Entertainment, is this. They somehow put in a new character and tied it into Creed without it feeling shoehorned. And oh, by the way, the character that they cram in there and make work really well happens to probably be the greatest actor of this generation. Jonathan Majors. One thing about that I'm seeing with Jonathan Majors already, I've seen 4 of his films. And what I'm seeing with him is he could get typecast very quickly, but the man knows how to play a bad guy. And he's incredible in Ant-Man. But oh my gosh, his Dame is better than King the Conqueror. Hands down. Dame is layered. He's got reasons to do what he's doing. And it tells, again, this story of, and again, spoilers. This tells the story of the age-old question of, what about your homeboys after you make it big? We've seen the story in certain ways, but never like this. RL says Creed should have lost in the end to set up Creed 4. That's my only gripe, but it's not the best sports film. That's what made it awesome. Entertainment says, well, I guess this is what Jonathan Majors' life was like before he became king. Creed is winning too much for me. I don't like that. That's what's incredible. Here is the what makes this movie so amazing is that RL, this movie is basically a reboot of the first Rocky movie. And it almost does it twice. Think about this. Heavyweight champ, he actually retires in this movie. And it's not really told how old he is, but he's kind of done. And what's incredible to me, I'm a huge Dragon Ball Z fan. I love Dragon Ball Z. It's my favorite anime. This movie, again, it does the impossible. Somehow they put Dragon Ball Z in a boxing movie. There are close-ups of the eyes. There are, specifically, there's like teleportation in a way. There is a scene specifically where it's actually the final fight where Dame and Creed are fighting, and there's thousands of people, and all of a sudden they're in a ring and it's just them one-on-one. And it makes this movie so personal. What's more interesting about this, though, is the Rocky movies, some of the other movies that we've talked about, they're one-dimensional, right? Sports story, team sucks, and Mighty Ducks, right? They have to get better so that they can win at the end, right? The Rocky movies. Rocky. What's up, Andrew? He just got out and he said it's fire. I'm telling you. The Rocky movies. Seriously, Rocky gets beat up. He gets beat up. He gets beat up. Then he gets back up, and he overcomes. This movie does something different while telling the same story. Creed's at the top of his game, but it's his past. He has to really learn how to deal with things that he had run away from, that he had pushed down. That affects his family. This movie talks specifically, and I didn't mention this in this spoiler-free review, but this is what was so cool to me, is what was happening outside of the ring was a black male dealing with not dealing with his emotions and punching his way out of it. In the African American community, in general, black men do not go to therapy. They don't talk about their feelings. They're stoic and they do what they got to do. This movie really deals with what that looks like for the rest of the family. And, oh, by the way, Jonathan Majors is egging all of this on. It's so amazing. There is a specific scene that two scenes I can think of. The cinematography in this movie, and I'm going to get to the comments. The cinematography in this movie is quite possibly the best cinematography I've ever seen, specifically in a sports movie. There was a point in time where it's pulled right out of Dragon Ball, guys, right out of Dragon Ball. Creed gets punched in the stomach, and I believe it's Vegeta punching Goku, and Goku is kind of hunched over, and it looks like this. And they literally just ripped that out and put it into Creed. It was so amazing to see that. The other thing that's in there, I believe it's Vegeta versus Goku, and they're simultaneously punching each other, and it's both kind of like a double knockout. It's in there, and it's so surprising to see something like that happen. And Entertainment said Creed came out 7 years ago. That's what I'm saying. Let me jump into some of the comments here. Historical says, watching SmackDown, LA Knight. Yeah. Love it. I love it. I need that as a sound. Arl said it's definitely fire film, but not the greatest. Entertainment says I might see this in the first two films later on in the future. Man, I'm sorry I'm spoiling this. Go watch the spoiler free. It's just, this movie's, the cinematography, if I can say this again, it's so tight. It's so crisp. You can feel the punches. You can see, the ripple effects. It's all of that stuff. But then on top of it, and RL just hit it, how they incorporated Showtime boxing was great during the first fight for Dane versus Chavez. And it honestly, it caught me off guard. There were so many things in this movie. They caught me off guard. Usually you get like a first take Stephen A. Smith kind of, and they do that, right? You get those kind of things. But there's a point in the movie where the screen goes black and you get the Showtime logo. And it's like, Showtime presents. And I'm like, oh, I'm watching a fight right now. I am watching a fight right now. There are little things, and I really want to implore you, RL, to go watch it again and look for things like this. This is what, to me, makes it a step above. The fighting styles, right? With boxing, styles make fights. And they could have copped out in this movie and had Dame basically cheat his way up, right? When he fought Chavez, he cheated. He cut him on purpose. He was hitting him in the arm, all that stuff. And Entertainment says, now you're good. I'm getting spoiled sometimes. What's interesting about this, to me, is that Dame doesn't cheat in the end. He fights him straight up. But it's the nuances. Creed is he's durable, like Rocky. But he's got the mind now, and that's how he keeps winning. But you just nailed it, RL. The way every boxing movie that I've ever seen, everybody blocks like this, right? They block like they normally do. That's not how boxing works. Everybody has maybe a Philly shell, right? They block like this. Dame blocks like this. And I forget the style of that, but you could do that like in Fight Night Round 4. It's the attention to detail. It's whenever, and I'm going to demonstrate, I'm not going to do this justice because Jonathan Majors is a better actor than me. When he comes out of the rope, or when he comes out, right? He's just like this, just like you're seeing him there, right? When the bell rings, every time he does what reminds me a lot of Punch Out, Bald Bull would come out and he kind of rumbled. He did it every time. Every time he comes out, it's his style. It made the fight. Every single time. It was those little attentions to detail that just made this so much more believable. The other thing that, just drove the movie for me was Tessa. I think this was her best film. We've talked a lot about Thor, and I liked Tessa in Ragnarok. I thought she was fine in the most recent Thor, but I didn't love it, right? I didn't love it. This movie, she's the heartbeat. She's what inspires Creed to keep going. Just like Adrian did in the original movie, she did the same thing. Here's the twist in all of this. Here's the crazy twist. Dame is technically Rocky. Go back and watch this movie again and look through the lens of Dame being Rocky. A no-name fighter. Even though he was a Golden Gloves champ as a kid, he was a no-name fighter. He got to fight the champion and he won. In this instance, in 1977, we were cheering for Rocky. Go, Rocky. You've never done this before. You've never really boxed. We wanted him to win. Somehow, they took that story and flipped it on its head. And now we're looking at Dame and we're going, man, I don't want this guy to win. I don't want him to keep going. I don't want him to, you know what I mean? And not in an anti-hero way. The crazy thing about it is you still end up caring for Dame because you're coming through the lens and you're viewing Dame through the lens of Creed. Amazing. Let me get into some of these comments real quick. RL did like his blocking techniques. Entertainment says, but Jonathan Majors is probably my new favorite actor, though. I mean, absolutely. RL said it's the best boxing film ever. All right, common ground there. I did like the final fight when it was just the two of them, no crowd. Blew my mind. Blew my mind. The scene where they talk and, all right, best of luck, and they both go on both sides of the wall. The acting there is just so tight. It's so crisp. Your timing has to be perfect. And just to see Creed kind of look over at the wall while Dame is doing the same thing. It's just the little things. Go back and look at the little things. I'm going back, if not tomorrow, on Sunday with my dad. I'm telling you. My wife hasn't seen it yet. I'm spoiling it for her. The kids could probably see this. Honestly. And that I didn't even get to the point of that. His daughter is, I didn't know she was actually hearing impaired. She's fantastic. She is so good. She's such a realistic kid. Such a realistic kid. They played her so well. Entertainment says, will you be seeing the FNAF movie when it comes out. If you're a fan, what is FNAF? He deserved to lose in the end. Here's my thing. Phylicia Rashad. If what happened with Phylicia Rashad didn't happen, and I know this is a spoiler review, I don't want to say it in front of my wife. Oh, Five Nights at Freddy's. You know, that terrifies the mess out of me, man. Are they making a movie, though? That's pretty cool. I think that's what put him over the top. And the other thing is, I get the sense, and I'm going to go watch it again, RL, because I understand that what you're saying, that he deserves to lose. I think the motivation that he had, and then when he fought Drago again, that was another thing that I really, really, really enjoyed. That they brought back another character who had importance. They didn't just find some bum off the street or some random guy for him to fight and train against. He has a history with Drago. And as he moves into his Don King phase, it gave it some weight. It gave it some weight. And if he couldn't have beat Drago, when they have the training sequence, that's to me what made it believable that he could win again. Is because Drago was like, if you can't beat me, you're not beating this dude. Period. The other thing that I really enjoyed, speaking of that ending, is that we didn't do the Rocky thing. Yes, this is in the Rocky lineage. But one thing my mom and I always talk about that she really hates with superhero movies is that the hero just gets pummeled. And then at the end, they find some kind of way to just win, right? What's interesting about this is that fight, that final fight, is a fight. I feel like that was a realistic fight. There are times where Dane gets good shots in, right? But there are times where, man, Creed gets some shots in because he's an experienced boxer. The other reason, RL, is they go on to mention that both Dane and Creed are older, right? I think they're in their 30s, but Dane's older than he is. So it's still more realistic than Rocky beating the original Drago, right? There's no way that Rocky should have beat him. There's no way. And really, he shouldn't have beat Apollo Creed either. How are they going to set up Drago's film? I think that's what Creed 4 could be. Maybe he moves on and goes, I've made my point. Now I'm going to manage Drago. I would rather see Dame. I would rather see Dame. I would rather see Dame, Chavez, and Drago. Keep that going. I think it might be too early for another spinoff. But boy, all three of the movies are very solid. But what puts this over the top for me? If you look back at Ali, right? Will Smith does an incredible job in that movie. But the fights are very much choreographed. You can just tell. And it's a time thing too, right? If we look at, what are some of the, Coach Carter, right? You can see it coming. You can see all those things coming. In this movie, there are times, even in the first fight that's in Creed, it's like, this dude might get knocked out and it might be c'est la vie. Personally, what I thought was going to happen is Dane was going to take over the role. There's just so many in the fights. They're visually exciting. They're They're emotionally driven, and ultimately, man, that they're realistic. Even though, again, they've got that Dragon Ball cinematography, they're realistic. It's an experienced fighter, and an experienced fighter are going to have an experienced fight. Now, yes, the elephant in the room is Creed 4. His daughter would be great as a deaf fighter, be trained by her dad. I hope they don't do that. I hope they don't, because I don't know. What made Creed work was the connection, right? There was a connection in Creed 1, but more so Creed 2. Hey, thank you so much, Entertainment Man. Let me know what you think in the comments. Come back to this video after you see the movie. Let me know if you think I'm crazy and I deserve some slander. Let me know. Thanks, man. So that's what they're going to have to do. Are they going to tie in the bully? Maybe that bully, you know, they grow up in that bully. But the problem is you've got to wait for time, because what made Creed believable was Rocky got old. Like, Stallone is physically older now. So if Michael B. Jordan, you know, they do this in 3 to 5 years, he's probably not going to look like he's aged 10 to 15 years, right? Because his daughter's probably, I would say she's around my daughter's age. She's 7 or 8. So he'd have to look at least 10 years older, right? She'd have to be 18-ish, you know, to go and be maybe an amateur boxer or something like that. I don't know. I don't know how or where you go from here, because literally, there were points in the movie where I was sitting there going, oh my gosh, hit him again. It's just, the movie is bananas. And I encourage you, go see it again. Look for little details. I know a lot of people pointed out that there is a weird age gap. That somehow, from Creed 2 to Creed 3, why is he retiring? Because he would still be in his prime. Yes and no. I think part of it is kind of discussed with his wife, where they both are talking about they want to preserve what they have. Being a boxer is a hard life, right? And you box usually till you're in most guys stay too long, right? In their mid-30s. And they're getting pummeled, and you start feeling bad and stuff like that. I think from what they were discussing about her music career and his boxing, it's like, hey, we're on top. He's won all the belts at that point in time. Time for him to put the gloves down. Until Dame. Man, I loved it. A+ for me out of this movie. I can't wait to go see it again. I told Elmo, I told her, I said, if this movie was out now to buy, I'd buy it. You know how sometimes they put the pre-orders up? I'd buy it right now. I'd buy it right now. And the last thing I'll say is how you know, one, that this is a great trilogy, but also this is a great movie. And that's what I'm saying. George Foreman's coming, because that George Foreman film looks really good. It looks really, really good. What this movie does, Creed 3 does for me, is it almost makes 2 and 1 impossible to watch. Because when I go back and watch those movies, I'm going, the fights aren't the same. You know, they're not on the same level. I just think Michael B. Jordan outdid himself. He absolutely outdid himself. And the whole cast, fantastic. It's a great movie. It's for me. It's the greatest sports movie of all time. Again, previously, I would probably say I've seen Sandlot, Space Jam. Those are probably my two. Again, Space Jam I'm not counting, or excuse me, Sandlot I'm not counting because that's a coming of age film. So Space Jam for me was probably my favorite sports movie, and I think this movie dwarfs it because the actors can act. I love Michael. He's the GOAT, but that man can't act. All right, selectors, I appreciate you guys so much. It's dinner time for me here, so I'm going to head over to the kitchen, hang out with my family. I appreciate each and every one of you. We'll be doing the George Foreman film ASAP and many more. Shout out to RL. Shout out to Entertainment. There's a lot more I got to see too. Hustle. $1 Million Baby. I got to go back and watch it again too. Let's see. Visual was in here. We're getting close. I think we're 10 days away from WWE. Shout out to DJ who came through as well. Appreciate you guys all for checking us out. Make sure to like, subscribe. Check us out on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Apple, and Spotify podcasts. We're now on Patreon as well. And I told you guys I had some big news before we go. Right? Huge news. I'm going to share it with you guys now. I want to say thank you guys. We hit over 70K views on our channel, on our YouTube channel. Incredible. Incredible. Couldn't do it without you guys. You guys really mean so much to myself and Elmo. So thank you for that. Until next time, guys, be kind to one another. Remember to choose your destiny. My name's Select Screen, and I'm out.